The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. This is how they always do to the African. According to a U.S. Special Force Guard issued under the leadership of General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, American military planners outlined a coordinated method for forcing a foreign government back to the negotiation table, not through direct military invasion, but through manufactured instability. The manual described a fictional scenario set in West Africa. A member of U.S. Special Forces on an unrelated mission drives along a highway. Along the road, he noticed something ordinary but symbolically alarming: a billboard advertising Chinese-founded infrastructure, promoting the development of a new port. And this became a problem of the United States of America because they want to get that country back on track under their control because of one or two reasons. Chinese investment, a strategic coastline. That single billboard becomes a tragedy. Further investigations in the scenario reveals that the project is more than commercial real estate. It includes the construction of a Chinese naval port, and that could potentially allow China to project naval power in the Atlantic Ocean. From the perspective of the guide, this is not just business, it's geopolitics. This also led to the escalation to force us back to the negotiation table. What happened next, according to the manual, is not a battlefield response. Instead, it calls for interagency coordination. U.S. Special Forces are instructed to work alongside. All assets in the region are to be aligned towards a single goal: stop the project fast. First, diplomacy.
Everyone can look this up if you're listening right now. In 2021, the U.S. Special Forces perspective, under Mark Milley, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs, put out an entire instruction manual for how the U.S. military can work with the State Department and our intelligence services to organize a rent-a riot, to destabilize a country in order to bring them to the negotiating table. They gave an example of a hypothetical West African country where a member of U.S. Special Forces is on a separate mission, driving down a highway, and notices a billboard for Chinese infrastructure investment into a new port in this Western African country. The unit takes note of this billboard on a highway in Western Africa with Chinese symbols on it. They do their own investigation and figure out that this is part of a real estate development project from Chinese investors, that as part of that development project will have the construction of a Chinese naval port in this West African country, where in theory China would then be able to project naval influence in the Atlantic Ocean. What the Special Forces Guide calls for is coordination with the State Department, coordination with our intelligence services, coordination with our psychological operations unit to take all of our assets in that West African region. And in that case, what they did is they planned to work with the unions. What they did is they embarked in a social media influence campaign. They would activate all their media assets, all of their civil society institutional assets, and all their union assets to have the union labor pool in that West African country. Well, actually, there was one thing that happened first, is they first then went, in this hypothetical, the State Department sent a delegation to persuade the West African country to forbid the development license to the Chinese developer, and the head of that West African government said no. Because something was happening in the hypothetical in the next 30 days, there was a time sensitivity to generate an instability event to stop this using time-sensitive emergency. And so the way they generated that was they worked with their union contacts in the region and the media contacts in the region and created this whole social media campaign to inflame the sentiments of the West African labor union workforce who were working for Chinese companies at the time. Because in this hypothetical, the Chinese mining firms and Chinese industry, was employing a lot of these Africans. And it was to destabilize the country, to bring the mines, to bring the factories, to bring all of the Chinese production in the region to a halt, and to put all these Africans out of jobs, and to bring the African government effectively to a standstill. At the same time, in their own Special Forces manual, it called for support from U.S. aid to provide these same striking miners alternative jobs, so that while they were striking from the Chinese labor companies, they were still getting paid by U.S. taxpayers. So they were financially bribed effectively to boycott Chinese industry and to devastate their own country's government, create this crisis, and then use the State Department delegation to go back to the negotiating table with the West African government and promised to end the destabilization if the development was halted. And in that hypothetical, the West African government then rejects the license for the real estate development of China, and that is declared as an unalloyed success by the U.S. Special Forces and their partner network in the State Department and Intelligence. And this is the way of our diplomacy in 2021. And this is all publicly available if you look at the Special Forces prospectus. And when this goes live, I'll post this on my X account at Mike Ben Cyber, so that you can, don't take my word for it.
For example, in my war, the Angola war that I helped to manage, 1/3 of my staff was propaganda. Ironically, it's called covert action inside the CIA. Outside, that means the violent part. I had propagandists all over the world, principally in London, Kinshasa, and Zambia. We would take stories which we would write and put them in the Zambia Times, and then pull them out and send them to a journalist on our payroll in Europe. But his cover story, you see, would be that he had gotten them from his stringer in Lusaka, who had gotten them from the Zambia Times. We had the complicity of the government of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, if you will, to put these false stories into his newspapers. But after that point, the journalists, Reuters and AFP, the management was not witting of it. Now, our contact man in Europe was. And we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. In one case, we had the Cuban rapists caught and tried by the Ovimbundu maidens who had been their victims. And then we ran photographs that made almost every newspaper in the country of the Cubans being executed by the Ovimbundu women who supposedly had been their victims.
These were fake photos?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know of one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion of communists, eating babies for breakfast and that sort. Totally false propaganda.
Bringing American capital and expertise and standards to Africa so that we can keep exploiting, so that we can exploring where we can get these minerals.
In the hypothetical, the U.S. State Department sends a delegation to the West African government urging officials to revoke the Chinese developers' licenses. The answer comes back no. And this was when everything became a mess. No African have any right to say no to them. The government refuses, and that's when the clock starts ticking. The instability window. According to the guide, there is a 30-day time sensitivity. An instability event must be generated before the project becomes irreversible. The strategy shifts. Rather than targeting the government directly, the focus turns to society instead. The manual describes activating labor unions, media contacts, civil society organizations. These are their weapons they always use to get their things through. Social media influence networks. The goal is to inflame discontent among local labor unions, particularly workers employed by Chinese companies. A coordinated social media campaign is launched. Narratives are implied. Sentiments are inflamed. Anger is mobilized. Every available media and institutional asset is pushed into motion, not to inform, but to agitate. The bigger question is, this scenario presented by hypothetical reveals how modern conflict may no longer begin with soldiers across borders, but with information, organization, and pressure from within. No invasion, no declaration of war, just instability, engineered to force compliance, like we are seeing in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Whether this guide reflects planning, theory, or talent, one thing is clear. Power in the 21st century doesn't always announce itself with explosions, like Africans are seeking to see that before these people come, they have to tell us that this is their motive. I hope we are listening and we are learning something. Sometimes it starts with a billboard on a quiet West African highway. These people are like the police that we know here. Unless the police do not want to arrest you, they can even go to any length to use chalk that you don't even use to arrest you, to be an offense that you have committed. So unless these people are not looking for something in Africa, they have means and ways to make sure they get what they want. If not, why will a billboard in Africa cause a problem to these people just because we've given a site to Chinese to also develop something on our soil which is not theirs? And these are the things that they are doing in this modern way, and we are supporting. Like, they come with campaigns, they have people who will come societal world, and we believe these people because they write the script for them, they read the script to us, they know how to get to our heart, and we all start following when we don't even know that these things that these people are saying is against us. Especially our stars, the celebrities that we love so much, they speak through them. These are the people they are using, and that is why when something is pertaining to Africa, it's affecting, like what they try to do in Burkina, Mali and Niger, and you will never get African celebrities condemning, because all of them have their asset there. Everybody wants to be traveling there. They made here a hell, so we all want to live that better lifestyle over there. And they are using these people against the continent. And even us that's supposed to know with the information available, we are also falling short because we listen to the information. But when these people come to talk to us, we believe they are the credible. We believe they are the credible, they are this. We look at the positions, the titles that they have, and then we listen to their information, believing. And this is the downfall of Africa. And this is the time for us all to rise against all these things and start acting right to save our own selves. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world and in the United States of America.